Hi, we are Collective for Architecture Lebanon. I'm Lynn Chamoun, Elias Tamer, Shereen Doummar, and Edouard Souhaid.
So the pavilion is called The Land Remembers, and it's a fictional ministry. It's the Ministry of Land Intelligence, and it's mainly concerned with the crisis of ecocide that Lebanon is experiencing in this past year. Ecocide is actually the intentional destruction of the environment, and when you intentionally destroy the natural environment, you're not only destroying nature, but you're destroying and kind of killing the people that live off of that land. And so this is a very important question. It's a very relevant and urgent crisis. And Lebanon is just an extreme paradigm of this condition, which is it's existing around the world as well.
Right. And does your pavilion engage somehow within the theme of the Biennale this year?
Yeah, of course. Like all pavilions, we had to abide to the theme, which was intelligence, intelligence, collective, natural, and artificial. We went into this idea of natural intelligence. That's why it's called the Ministry of Land Intelligence, because we noticed in Lebanon we have this knowledge and native knowledge that was so profound that we needed to put it out there. And what's important for us is really to answer this question of what is intelligent, and also the land being this intelligent. And as human beings and as humans, we need to respect that, and it's the intelligence of non-humans also are really important. So yeah, of course, we really focused on this idea of intelligence, more specifically to the natural and collective, since we are a collective also, of course, yeah.
Which fits perfectly into the theme.
Exactly.
And I thought there was a bunch of challenges for you to get here, but also with the pavilion itself. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, of course, to get to the Venice Architecture Biennale, it was not easy because Lebanon was going through not only an economic and financial collapse, but also the war that has happened recently, which was very violent and very traumatic for many people in Lebanon. Most of the funds were going to humanitarian aid, which was a priority back then. And the Lebanese government didn't have any funds to allocate for this project. So we had to entirely self-fund by counting on the support of very generous individuals in Lebanon that really wanted Lebanon to be present at the Venice Biennale and have a message to say. So we crowdfunded in Lebanon, and thanks to the generosity of our many sponsors, we were able to make it.
So actually in the pavilion, we sort of have these two different aspects. One of them is the aspect of the documentation of the ecocide, and the second one is the aspect of all the strategies to heal the land. So this was a kind of framework that we were working with. And honestly, the way our collective works is that we always work in a multidisciplinary setting. So we've worked with the scientists, but also with the grassroots organizations, with some architects. And for the documentation part, honestly, it was pretty simple. Green Southerners were doing a lot of amazing work on the ground, and they were doing raw footage of what was going on, live updates. And so it was a very easy choice to make. And when it comes to the cartography that also was done for this pavilion, there are amazing organizations such as Public Works Studio and the Urban Lab in AUB that have been producing the work that technically the government is supposed to be producing, but they've been filling that gap, and so it's been really interesting working with them.
There's also this main question that we're asking ourselves is how can we heal the land for future generations? And this idea is, since we're tackling a subject that architects are not used to and are not experts in, so we had to go with scientists. So we had different scientists and associations, for example, like Juzur Lebanon, who did the bank seed in Lebanon, and we got most of endemic species which are only native to Lebanon here. And also there's the part of which is the strategic healing. So healing the land is a very complex issue, and it's not that easy. So we work with academics and scientists to work mainly with this idea of bioremediation, so using nature to heal the land from chemicals and destruction.
So guys, how do we heal the land?
To heal the land is a complex process. First of all, we need to assess the damages that happen to the land, which, as we know in Lebanon, we don't have fully access yet to all the studies, to the level of contaminations that the soil and the ground have faced. And on top of that, we need to understand what is in the land. So as Edouard mentioned earlier, with Juzur Lebanon, we were documenting all the seeds, the native seeds and species to Lebanon, and what is dormant in the land. So once the ecocide has happened, once the land has burned, it will regenerate itself because it has a form of intelligence. And we need to wait a couple of years to understand what will come out of the ground, all the seeds that were dormant in the ground and are coming back. So this is why the pavilion is also called the land remember, because the land has this memory, this intelligence to regenerate itself. So, yeah.
And this pavilion also is linked to the previous ones of the Lebanese pavilions. So can you make up a bit about that?
So, yeah, I think this question is actually relevant because it kind of tells you the fact that we're all concerned with the land. So from the place that remains to a roof of silence to the land remembers, it gives off a message that actually Lebanon has a very special relationship with its land. And that's also the message of the pavilion, that we need to reassess that relationship in order to preserve the land.
It's amazing. And if you look a bit more generally to the Biennale, do you see a shift in what national pavilions are trying to say or how they are communicating architecture?
Yeah. First of all, of course the Biennales, it started with the Art Biennale, and then you had the Architecture Biennale. But what's important is that both of them are kind of getting in relationship to each other. And what's interesting with the Architecture Biennale is that each one has much more research to it, and it's about documentation, and it has a much more evolving kind of aspect than the art one. But I would say that it was funny because when the intelligence, the idea, the main theme was intelligence, a lot of people thought, okay, everybody's going to go with artificial intelligence, but that's not the case. Everyone went with this idea of the natural intelligence, and this is something, and I think it's pretty crazy because nobody, not the National Pavilion, nobody actually talked with each other to actually know that. So when we did the presentations, we noticed that we were in line with the team and we were in line with everyone else, which was kind of insane for us as a collective also to know that.
I think what gives us hope is that there is much more awareness, especially related to the natural environment, which has been in crisis around the world. And that's one of the main messages of our pavilion, that architects need to have more agency when it comes to our engagement with the natural environment and not just think about reconstructing straight away. And I think that's also a message that the collective and all the people who worked for this pavilion want to give to the Lebanese architects, that we need to sort of reconsider that relationship with our land before just jumping in and just reconstructing, which is also a very worthy effort, but before architecture there is land.
Yes, so we're inviting people to sign a petition against, to ban white phosphorus as a munition against land, because right now it's banned to be used in civilian areas, so against humans, but not against land. And if you kill the land, you can't, humans can't live off that land, so it's important to also ban it against that.